Assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon. So, welcome to another series of Kate Lead Cafe series. We are now in ESD Presso. So, it's a session where we empower education with an extra shot of sustainability. With me here, let me introduce myself first. I'm the head barista for today, Dr. Rafidah Hood from Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences. And with me today, I have Associate Professor Dr. Rahmat Dapari. He's a public health specialist, the Community Health Department in this faculty, Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences. He's also one of the task force members of MQF 2024 in UPM. Right. Our topic for today is sustainable futures implementing ESD in the curriculum. So we'll spend very light and make it light and short and happy. And while we do this, let's just have a sip of espresso or whatever beverage that you have. So this is the first time that we're having this kind of setup, and we are grateful for unit
communication and visibility.
Communication and visibility unit in this faculty for having this setup. And this is a nice change rather than being in our own PC and on Zoom. Okay, so let's start. Okay, we're talking about ESD. And we want to probably cover more of the key concepts, the goals, importance of ESD. And before we start, probably want to we want to know a bit more about what ESD means for those who may be not familiar with this word, maybe first time or not, you have not been fully exposed. Perhaps I can invite Associate Professor Dr. Rahmat to share and explain what ESD means. Dr. Rahmat, welcome to the slide.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Rafidah, for the very kind introduction. First of all, before I start, I would like to say thanks again to the unit visibility, communication and visibility unit of Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences, because we are now actually in our studio. So we are actually invite all of you who are interested to use our studio. So you can basically do live streaming, or you can do recording by using our facilities. So you can book with my staff here, Dr. Encik Kayu. Okay, so today we are going to cover on the sustainable development, but it's more focused on the education perspective. So basically we are going to learn more on the education and the sustainable development, even though there are many questions being asked before. Number one, they are talking about, we already implement the ESD? That's number one question. Or this is something new? Or this is something that we already implement but we are not aware? So there are many questions being asked before. So again, regarding the question about what is ESD, so again, ESD is something that we can define as an education that encourage and empower learner of all age to obtain the required knowledge, skill, values, and attitude. So in other words, that we want to educate our student to have this skill of knowledge, skill, and values and attitude. On what? So the question is, when we want to learn about the ESD, the most important actually, we need to understand that this ESD actually to tackle or to actually in order for us to support the SDG. So SDG is something that the Sustainable Development Goal. There are 17 goals actually we already set to be achieved by 2030. But not only we need to understand the 17 goal, but we need to understand also there are 169 target under this all 17 goal. So meaning that we not only need to understand, example like our Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences, our our hardcore business is we are talking about the SDG 3, good health and well-being. So it's not in order for us to understand the ESD, the concept, we need to understand all the target under the SDG 3. So maybe some of the PTJ, maybe you are from the engineering faculty, maybe you are from the agriculture faculty. So you need to see what are your hardcore business or what are the hardcore SDG that you are actually dealing or you are teaching. And again, you need to understand what are the target under your SDG. Then only we go back to the ESD, how we can use this knowledge of the SDG to implement in our education. So again, the ESD, again, I would like to emphasize again and again, is about how you want to train our student on the knowledge, skill, values, and empower the learner on how to use these values in the education throughout the study period. Okay. Other thing that we need to see on the ESD component is about the how we can use this knowledge on the ESD on the learning. So how we can embed or how we can develop our curriculum. So we need to see what kind of learning content that we can use. Maybe you already have the learning content or maybe you don't have. So in this question, in this dilemma, there are some group of people or some group of the lecturer, actually they say they already implement this SDG. They are 100% assured or confirm or very confident they already implement and conduct the SDG or ESD in their curriculum. So that is one group. Another group that they are not really sure is that the teaching content is actually under SDG or ESD. Or maybe there is another group of people actually have zero knowledge or zero idea about what is ESD or ESD in their curriculum. So we need to see the learning content, how actually we can use the ESD and SDG in the curriculum. And then not only that, we need to measure the learning outcome based on the SDG.
That's a lot to do, right? What are the other things that you think might be useful for the lecturers now that you have explained in detail regarding the SDG?
Okay. So apart from the ESD, basically we need to, as I mentioned before, it's about the knowledge and skill, right? So we need to explore what are the competency under the ESDC? Under the ESDC. So after this, maybe I will use the term of ESDC because basically this is about the educational sustainable development competency. So under the ESDC, under the guideline, there are 8 competency that we can implement and we can measure. The 8 element is grouped under 3 categories. Number 1 is ways of thinking. How are we thinking? So under ways of thinking, there are 3 competency. It's a system thinking competency, and then anticipatory competency, and number 3 is critical thinking competency. I'm not going to tell or to explain one by one what are they, because you can open based on our slide being given through the briefing slide. As well from many other documents that you can refer. Number 2 group actually ways of practicing. So meaning that how actually we can practice based on this competency. So under these ways of practicing, there are 3 elements of competency. Number 1 is integrated problem solving competency, and then collaboration competency, and then number 3 is a strategic competency. And then ways of being. This is sometimes we call as a values. So ways of being is something, number 1 is talking about the normative competency and self-awareness competency. So all of these elements or what we call as a competency of ESD, we need to ensure that all of these competency cover under our curriculum. So our principle of when we are doing or when we introduce this ESDC for the curriculum, basically, we want to make sure that each of the students have exposure at least one for the postgraduate, at least one of this competency throughout the study period. For undergraduate level, we hope that minimum there's a 2 exposure or 2 courses the student actually exposed throughout the study period. So that's why we design the ESDC competency and the mapping. Actually, there are certain reasons why postgraduate have a one-time exposure, and undergraduate there's a two-time exposure.
Okay, so that is a lot. So we have 8 sustainable competencies and divided into 3 different categories. Okay, moving on. Because we don't want it to be too heavy. Okay?
Yeah.
We're making it light and santai. So why is it important to integrate ESD into the curriculum at the university level, especially here in UPM?
Okay, I believe that UPM plays a role in shaping future leaders, meaning that as part of the IPT responsibility, UPM must make sure that the curriculum, this is what we call as under CQI, continuous quality improvement, meaning that we try as hard as possible under our responsibility to ensure that whatever the program that actually we deliver under UPM follow the standard required by the qualification bodies, example MQF. So under MQF 2024, actually there are mentioned about integration of the ESDC in the curriculum. So this actually moving forward toward that direction. We are trying to fulfill that criteria. So meaning that all the program under UPM, regardless postgraduate or undergraduate, we are able to show the evidence we already embed or we already implement ESDC in our curriculum. So we hope that not only based on the document, but today we try to make sure that all of you, we hope that all of you are able to integrate whatever the ESDC in your learning content again, and then in your learning outcome assessment or evaluation of the courses to ensure that you are able to answer the OBE, outcome-based education, as well as to answer on the PLO attainment. So later I will describe more on the what is a PLO attainment, how actually we can design our program or our courses to fulfill that requirement.
Good, great. So that's a nice description of ESD so far. So I think our audience is following us. Then what do we have?
Okay.
So maybe okay, what does this all mean to us as lecturers? I mean, how do we do this then? We understand now what the ESD is, all the sustainable competencies. So now how do we achieve this, our role as lecturers?
Okay, so before I start with that question, to answer that question, I just want to share what actually already happened. So meaning that in order for you to see that as a lecturer, I need to do this task. But again, before you do this task, you need to actually understand, or at least you acknowledge what actually already happened before. Okay, for me, this is my personal perception. So meaning that it's based on my personal observation, what already been done by UPM. For me, there are 3 layers or 3 level of task was conducted. The level 1, the higher one, actually is done by K-Lead, by the SGS, by the JKKK, and then we have the JKKK PSU, and then we have a task force of MQF 2024. So this, there are many more, but sorry if I did not mention the name. This layer 1 basically are those who are think tank or steering committee who are actually organize the document or develop the document to ensure that the implementation process of this ESDC in our UPM going to be smooth and guided. So this is first layer. So it was started since last year, maybe early than that. But my involvement is like last year. So we have various workshop, even meeting at night, just to develop or to think on how actually we can implement or develop the guideline to ensure that those who are using the guideline have a clear direction on how they can implement the ESDC. That's layer 1. Layer 2 is we already conduct a training as well as a workshop among the second layer. Second layer for me is a program owner. is among the program coordinator, among the head of department. So all this group actually are doing the documentation on how to fulfill the criteria. So there are certain criteria on how they can fulfill the criteria. Example, all the program identify, not the program, all faculty, they already identify the program that require the ESDC implementation. That number one. Number two, they identify, each of the faculty identify minimum 2 SDG that are main, or they are the main SDG under their faculty. So example, in our faculty of Medicine and Sciences is more on the SDG 3 and I can't remember, sorry. Can't remember. There's a 2, There's a 2, okay. And then number 3 is all of the 8 competency, the one that I mentioned just now, the 8 competency has been mapping, meaning that to ensure that all the competency has been covered. Minimum 1 for the postgraduate, and for the diploma, minimum 2 exposure to the competency. And then all the courses, there are certain requirements that this one is more technical. So this task was conducted, or this task actually already completed by the program owner, by the program coordinator most of the time. So to answer the question on the how about lecturer, so we are at the 3rd layer. Me too, because I am a course coordinator for my course. So I am also the 3rd layer, the implementer. So today, basically, we hope that we already give all the training, all the workshop among the 1st and 2nd layer. But now, for today, the aim actually is among the lecturer at this 3rd layer who are actually going to implement this SDG. So this is the purpose. So always go back to the basic, the teaching plan. So when we want to deliver the course to our student, prior, maybe it's 1 month, maybe 3 months before the teaching semester, we need to come up with our teaching plan. So just revisit what is the teaching plan. So teaching plan is something like the planning on the teaching, including the student learning time, all the contents, all the assessment, evaluation. Maybe you want to update on the references. Maybe you want to update everything. But all of this teaching plan must be ensure to answer the course learning outcome. So meaning that you already set the course learning outcome for each of the courses. So whenever you design your teaching plan, must make sure that this actually will answer all the content, all the student learning time, all the activities, either teacher-centered learning or student-centered learning, must be answerable to the CLO. So this is the teaching plan. So meaning that when we want to implement the competency of ESD, we look into our own teaching plan. Okay, so this one always go back to the initial dilemma. Maybe when you check your teaching plan, week 1, week 2, until week 14, maybe they already have SDG component. Sometimes we do some evaluation on the course. The course title basically is on the SDG. It's talking about the SDG. So the course title is SDG. So basically all the content on that courses actually on the SDG. They cover everything, SDG 1 until SDG 17. But sometimes they are not able to provide the evidence to say that this content actually on the SDG. This is sometimes happen when we are actually not sure the content of our teaching plan actually belong to which SDG. This is something happen. So we need to check again the CLO, the course learning outcome, the synopsis, as well as the certain component of the course content to see which one actually align with the course with the ESDC.
Okay, so now that you have given us all the three different layers of the role up to the lecturers, what lecturers need to do, maybe you can share further so that we can understand better an example of how that ESD can be implemented in a UPM course, an example or a program.
Okay. So the question is, can be implemented. Okay, so then I can answer the question.
Yes, it can be implemented.
If the question is, what is my experience implementing the SDG or SDC? So it's something that at this moment I'm not able to answer because it's something that actually is still ongoing. Okay, even for my program, Doctor of Public Health, we still not yet doing the workshop on doing this SDG. But the other program like medical doctor or the other program actually they already aligned. So we can implement how. The question is how ESD can be implemented in our program or in our courses. So now I already covered on the teaching plan, but before teaching plan, there is another important thing that we need to see. Number one, we need to see on our PEO, program educational outcome. So what are the program objective? Program educational objective. So what are the objective of your program? Sometimes the objective of the program clearly stated to achieve certain SDG. There are sometimes they come out something like that. But sometimes when we read the PEO 1 to 3, maybe 1 to 4, 1 to 5, there's the number that usually for the PEO. We can understand that this SDG actually this program actually is more suited for the SDG 17, or this is more like SDG 5. So we can see on just looking for the PEO. Number two, we need to look into the PLO of the program. Program learning outcome. So there are 1 to 12. So for the PLO at this moment, those who are actually not yet involved with the SESDC, so you need to understand that now UPM already come up with a new PLO list with previously we have different number of PLO for undergraduate and postgraduate, but now we already standardized. We have 12 PLO, PLO 1 until PLO 12. The reason why, because we want to make sure that our PLO, number one, is aligned with the cluster given by the MKF. Okay. Number two, is easy for us to see that the UG and PG actually same PLO, but they have a different level of attainment, a different level of competency. Okay, so on top of the PLO 1 to 11 that actually follow the MKF cluster, we add on the PLO 12. Just focus on the PLO ESDC. So meaning that this PLO 12 actually to ensure that we are able to show the evidence based on the document, and we will be able to do the PLO attainment via OBE because this PLO 12 actually focus on the competency of the ESD. Okay, so you need to see again. But this the problem of PLO, there are two versions. Number one, when you do not have the standard program, then you need to follow the UPM PLO list, 1 to 12. But if you already have the standard program, meaning that your program have the standard bodies, and then you have maybe some national postgraduate or national curriculum that you must follow, then you need to follow the PLO, the standard program PLO. On top of either you add on the PLO ESDC or you embed. This is two methods that we actually quite flexible. The next component is we are talking about the CLO, the course learning outcome. So this course learning outcome actually when we do some revision on the new I mean, this is new a new movement when we want to make sure that the new new curriculum or the old curriculum actually will comply with our guideline. So all DCLO, we need to check whether the courses that you are talking is actually is a selected or courses ESDC. All courses under your program will be selected for the courses ESDC. There is only 8 minimum or maybe less than that for the postgraduate level, and undergraduate level maybe up to 8 or up to 16 for the undergraduate. So the selected ESDC courses you must map with the PLO ESDC. So to make sure that I'm teaching this course, okay? So this course eventually will cover certain part of the ESDC. Okay, and then we have another lecturer cover course B. So this course B will eventually cover the ESDC number 2 maybe. So basically we need to have a cumulative action among the lecturer to ensure that each of the lecturer and all the selected courses will eventually complete the PLO ESDC to ensure that the principle of each of the student must be exposed with the ESDC component. Okay.
So for example, of a course?
For example, let's see, we give example of a few example. Okay, this example like we have a bachelor program Sains Fizik Bahan dengan kepujian. So basically this is one of the example. One of the example, they already select 1 courses each of the semester. So semester 1 there are courses on the Fizik Bahan, and then semester 2 there are another courses keelektrikan and kemagnetan, and then semester 3 Fizik keadaan pekerja. So each of the semester they already select 1 courses, and then each of the courses actually cover different competency. So 8 courses for 8 semester. So meaning that they already cover all the 8 ESDC component. So this actually under second layer, the program coordinator need to align this. So basically this is not yet under the third layer. The third layer who are implement that program. Another example, maybe program Dr. Perubatan Medical Doctor. This is I think still ongoing. Maybe Dr. Rafidah can. This is your program, right? Program.
All right. Okay. So for example, another example would be you're right. We're still ongoing, but the proposed. So there might still be some changes, but the proposed is still using the same concept. That is, for every semester, we have 1 course that we choose to teach the SDG. For example, human biology in the first semester. So that is one of the course that we're going to target the system thinking competency that will address SDG 3. And then we have for the second semester, respiratory system will be again the system thinking competency, because for each competency it should be exposed twice for undergraduate. That will be targeting the SDG 13, climate action, and so on. So that means for every semester, there will be 1 course that will be addressing the SDG. And so for us in medical program, we have 5 years, so there'll be about equivalent to about 10 semesters. So for every semester, we'll have to identify. So, but at present, we are still in the process of the reviewing the curriculum. So if the sequence of these modules do not change, then probably we can stick with this. But in the event of the further discussion, future curriculum review workshops, if there are some courses that might go earlier or that might go later, then we have to review again in terms of having every 1 course for each semester. So that will be the concern later. But as it is, our plan is as such. So we are planning our medical doctor will address either SDG 3, health and well-being, or climate action 13. And for other courses, because we also have the university courses like PRT address example, zero hunger, right? I think zero hunger. So for some of the courses university are also already addressing SDG. So that means for students taking that particular program will have extra more than 2 SDGs. Yeah, so that I think perhaps most of other programs in other PTJs are also experiencing the same thing.
Okay, so what we can understand actually for the second layer, the program coordinator or the program owner with all the team of the course coordinator that involved or selected to be ESDC. So basically, they already align or do some mapping to ensure that the number of exposure are follow the requirement. So in this case, the medical doctor actually plan minimum 2 exposure for the competency. This is already fulfill the requirement. But can we do extra? The question to answer that is actually yes. You can do extra by doing more exposure, but again, you must, as this is the first movement or the first exercise that we do, actually we try to do something that capable. We are capable to do it. So try to limit whatever we want to do. But if you think possible to add on in future, yes, we can do that under the terminology continuous quality improvement. Okay, this is another example. Just to share, the medical doctor is undergraduate, and my program myself is a program Doktor Kesihatan Awam public health doctor program. So basically, we only have 3 semesters. So because we only have 3 semesters, so we need to align 3 semesters. It's 3 years.
3 years.
So total 6 semesters. So we need to align to ensure that, okay, certain courses might have only 1 competency, but certain courses require 2 competency, but that's the maximum. 1 course only can have 2 maximum competency at one time. You cannot have more. Okay, then because the possibility of you to conduct might be challenges, and then again the question on the evaluation evidence, how you want to evaluate under the OBE if there are too many competency under one course. Okay.
Yes, you mentioned regarding challenges, because if you're tamak sangat, like you want too many ESDs in your course, so there'll be challenges. Okay, so what are the main challenges lecturers face when you want to integrate the ESD into the curriculum?
Okay, when we are talking about the lecturers, based on my perception or based on the experience at this moment, is the exposure is mostly among the program owner, the program coordinator itself, and then the second layer is those who are actually the course coordinator, who are, to say, is it lucky or unlucky to be selected for the course ESDC. So this is based on the perception or the experience. Number 1, they have a lack of familiarity with the ESD principle. So again, the dilemma, maybe they know, but they are not confident enough to say this content actually belong to this SDG. This competency level that I measure actually already in there for many years ago, but I never declare. So the question of why we do this movement or this exercise, actually we want to make sure whatever we did before, maybe we already implement, but it's being captured and documented. So whenever we are maybe assessed by the qualification bodies, we are able to show, okay, this SDG 3, this is SDG 13, and then this is the competency that we measure, everything documented. So that's number 1. Lack of familiarity. Number 2, there are certain courses, certain programs are a bit rigid, meaning that they might have a standard program already in place. And then this standard program already been designed as such, the PLO2 equivalent or the PLO2 contain certain ESDC. So they are a bit rigid. We cannot change. So this is a bit difficult because they need to abide or they need to follow their standard program. But for me, personal experience, most of the time actually not because of the cost or the structure actually rigid, but the person. The person of the, I mean the lecturer itself, a bit rigid to change. So that's why we try to use this word. Hopefully you can the word. You already learned, and then nice now. Actually, it's time for you to unlearn and learn again.
Relearn, okay.
So we know that all the lecturer, all the very experienced senior, maybe you're already involved with your program development, standard development. But this is not from me. It's somebody from CATLEAD also. Actually, use this word. You already learn. But now it's time for you unlearn and relearn again. So maybe you need to be a bit flexible, then only less stress for you, more flexible to accept the concept of integration or implementing the ESD in our curriculum. Number three, limited access or resources on the material. Tailored with your ESDC. Maybe you have certain SDG, maybe you want certain competency, but you have limitation in terms of the resources to implement. Maybe you want to do, okay, all the students, you need to do underwater competency. There are SDG underwater. So maybe you need some instrument, not only theory. So this is maybe some limitation that may be faced by the course coordinator. And then I believe that most of the time our lecturer, including me, actually a bit afraid, anxiety about the changes. When we want to do changes, we are not really sure. Is it a major changes, or this is only minor changes, or this is very significant and burdensome for me to make the changes. So trust me, based on the experience when we have our program coordinator designing the implementation of EDC, actually it's very minimum changes in the structure of the content. So there are content number 1 for week 1, and then content 2, week 2, week 3. So the what we call the subheading of the content, you just need to add 1 or 2 element of the SDG and competency so that it can show that, oh, my course actually cover this SDG 3, and then also during the teaching plan, during the PDP, during the evaluation, I can measure the competency on the collaboration example, on the anticipatory example. So this is the actually is not so much as long you have you dare to face to embrace these activities.
And I think you are not alone, because everybody is having have to do that. And I think you also mentioned on the institutional support and all the support. So basically, who are these people? I mean, who do you really mean? Researchers can get support from.
The support again. Always go back to the first layer. Okay. I think but it's already challenges for us. The first layer who are actually develop the program, develop the guideline. So you can reach us anytime, but the guideline already been prepared. As such, it should be independent, or like a SIM. What we call it? SIM. SIM. SIM.
Structured instruction material.
Instruction material, meaning that by reading itself, you can follow.
Apa dia?
Self-instruction material,
Instruction material. So meaning that guideline actually already been designed as such, is so simple that you can follow step by step. You follow step by step. And then we already come up with all the references, with all the templates. So you follow one by one. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, even though we have our task force, but again, at PTJ level, must remember, you have appointed members of JKKK and JKKK PSU, meaning that at faculty level, you try to solve the problem by seeing this PIC first. The JKKK, Jawatan Kuasa Kecil Kurikulum, and number 2, the Jawatan Kuasa Kecil Kurikulum Pengajian Siswazah University. So this member, actually, we already equipped them to be able to help the PTJ on how actually you can design or how you can implement the ESDC in your program. That's number 2. Number 3, we already have our a plan on the mega bengkel or the workshop fasa 1, fasa 2. So there's many platform actually we can again guide you on the development of the ESDC in your program. I will not name anyone because it's not fair for us actually to pinpoint one person to in charge for the whole UPM or for the whole faculty. So I think the responsibility of the PTJ to ensure that you must appoint or you must use, is it correct to use?
Get in touch, with the people.
Not abuse, the members of the JKK and JKK PSU to help you, okay? So I think at the PTJ level should be okay. And then what happened to the third layer? The lecturer who I actually conduct. So this lecturer should discuss or consult the program owner, because the program owner already been trained by this first layer on the guideline. So meaning that at the third layer, as an academic, as the course coordinator, I just need to consult my course program coordinator. So program coordinator already do the mapping, already decide which course actually will implement what is SDC. So basically, this course coordinator discuss with this. Maybe if you have any problem, you can have a group of meeting or discussion with different program in same faculty. So you can share all the problem, or you can share the what best practice, or maybe what best writing format. Maybe even yesterday we already have a JKKK PSU meeting. We already passed one program under our faculty with the ESDC. Already implement the ESDC in the program, and then we already passed bersyarat lah with conditional approval. So we hope that we can use that as a reference from our faculty, how actually we can design the program to make sure this program actually pass the JKKK PSU or JKKK in near future.
All right, so that's great. But we are almost 146.
Sorry.
I think dah a bit too heavy. My beverage pun dah habis. I think we can stop now for the session. I think I hope that this session has been enlightening for all out there. And any last words from you, ataupun macam tips or some kind of encouragement for those who are going to be doing this?
I think I need to give some motivation, not only for all of you, but for me also.
Yes.
Because at this moment, even though I am a program coordinator for the public health program, but I am also a lecturer for my course. So we need this motivation, not incentive. Incentive is different. Incentive, tolak tepi dulu. So now motivation. How actually we can adapt with this movement. Number one, I think we go back to the clear guideline. We already have the clear guideline being published, is available now.
Yes.
Panduan Penawaran Program Akademik Baharu dan Semakan Kurikulum, edisi 2025. I think the number of pages reach 37 something. It's too detailed, but you can select which page actually you require, because it's depend on you. Your program is PG, postgraduate or undergraduate, so you can select which one. Whether it's a Semakan or maybe it's a new program. So please use this program. So basically, number one, the motivation that we can use actually, we have clear guideline. This motivates us as a lecturer, how we can implement. And then under this guideline, actually, you can see under chapter 7, we are talking about the rangka kursus. Course structure. So you can follow one step by step actually how to actually to improve your writing. And then the integration support, because we have various workshop, training, even today actually just there's no slide because it's too technical. It's just sharing. Today is a sharing moment. Maybe you are driving, maybe you just having your lunch. So it's a sharing just to give you assurance that actually this is something actually for the benefit of the student, our student. We have alignment, top-down, bottom-up alignment. So we not only one direction from the top asking you to do whatever you need to do, but also we need some feedback. Maybe you need some improvement in your program, then maybe we can do some support. So we hope that this all the activities can support not only you but support me to implement. The course is not implemented yet, but to implement on the way for our program and our courses in near months. Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. So I think that's the end of our session. Unless ada soalan, any questions from the audience that you may want to ask? Kalau tak ada, thank you so much for spending your time to be with us in this ES2 Presso.
Yes, question.
Okay, soalan. Okay, ya. Kat sebelah kejap. Let me just read. From Fazli, is it possible to address ESDC in courses that are not SDG related courses, or must ESDC only be embedded within SDG focused courses?
Okay, simple answer for that is always go back to the dilemma. Sometimes we are not so sure this course actually non-SDG, but I believe that when we look into the SDG, most of the time actually our courses actually somehow is related to the SDG, somehow. Okay, the only problem is if we look into the detail, the target, the 169 target. Then only we realize, oh, our course and our program actually not fit for the SDG. So for me, go back to the number 2. Basically, you need to see the target to make sure that the 169, whatever the SDG you choose, and then you see the target, is it fit or not fit? Then only you are very sure that my course is not related to the SDG. I'm not able to achieve the SDG by using this course. Then choose different course that are more suitable for that SDG.
All right. Okay. Do we have any other, macam tak ada soalan lain kan? So, yeah, I think that's about. Thank you for your question, Dr. Fazli from Unimas. Any other questions you can ask verbally right now? You can just unmute and ask. Okay, and then you have also the online attendance being shared, the link dekat chat, Zoom chat. So I think it's already 1:52. It's meant to be like half an hour or so like that, but it's now almost 1 hour. So continue to have your lunch and break, and I think that's all from us. Thank you again from unit apa tadi?
Communication and visibility.
And visibility from us here in Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences, University Putra Malaysia. Okay, bye-bye. Thank you so much.